Good afternoon and welcome to one of the sessions of our Wealth Builder series for MMCP. This is, I think, our third or fourth session on Wealth Builder, the MMCP Wealth Builder series. And today we will be focusing on post-retirement planning. So one of the things that we'll be talking about is how to equip yourself for a confident retirement and specifically on managing the tax implications when you are retired. So this is what we will be talking about this afternoon. And we've got statistics that we have gathered throughout, and the presentation took from different surveys, from different asset managers, and from different environments. And the Sanlam survey says that and the average retirement age has remained at 64% for a long time. However, it has been proven by the asset managers or the insurance companies that the funds are not sufficient. So 4 of the 10 fund managers that were surveyed said that they don't believe that 64 people who have saved people have saved enough for them to be able to go on retirement. So this is Ntabi saying I'm going to be the facilitator for today. I'm a chartered accountant by profession. I'm an LLB holder and a financial advisor, and I also do tax planning and that. So I'm going to give over to Brian, my colleague, to introduce himself. Brian. I see Brian hasn't yet joined, but he will join as time goes on. So we will be talking about some of the issues that we get confronted with as we provide financial advice on a daily basis, and some of the information as well that we obtained from the Sanlam benchmark 2025, where it was revealed that 42% of fund members, or those that were invested specifically in the funds from Sanlam, are on track for retirement, whilst other people are not on track with. And then the other thing that was quite prevalent is that there is financial literacy gaps that results in loss of funds for a lot of people. Just last week, I went to the police station and I was informed of a pensioner who was defrauded close to 600,000 because she didn't have good financial literacy to manage her finances. So some of the misconceptions that we'd also like to talk about are that when you go on retirement, it's all about money. It's all about money, retirement. So we just want to put that as a misconception that there is just so much around retirement other than just funds. The other thing is that there is an expectation that a person's expenses are going to go down when you are in retirement. There is a misconception about that. However, we will try to indicate that there is cost definitely that will go down when you go on retirement. However, there will be some costs that are definitely going to shoot up once you go on retirement. So those are some of the things we'd like to talk about. So from the survey that we did with of the document that we obtained from Sanlam, what came out is that on the left-hand side is a survey where people have been asked as to how many years before you retire do you expect to seek financial advice about your retirement needs. So 7% said it's not necessary for us to get financial advice. And some said 18% said between 5 and 9 years. 26%, which is a larger percentage, said within 5 years of you going on retirement, you need to engage a financial advisor. 14% said that you need between 15 and 20. And lastly, almost 16% said you need to talk about retirement from an early age, 20 years or so. So this just indicates the different opinions that each person has in terms of when they would like to start engaging someone for retirement planning. Those who know, they will tell you that it's better to start all of these things at an early age so that when life starts happening, you have actually prepared yourself. So again, from the Sanlam survey, what came out is that 43% of people, when they go on retirement, they don't even have an emergency fund. Some of them utilize the two-pot system they withdrew from their retirement funds to go and pay their expenses. Some are still saying that they've got so much debt when they go on retirement and it's causing them financial stress. 43% said they believe that they could pay debt quickly, but unfortunately they don't. Then 42% says they believe that with discipline, you can be able to manage your debt. And lastly, they see debt as a barrier for them to get their freedom, meaning they cannot retire comfortably because they've got so much debt, which they cannot clear at retirement, or it is just too much to clear at retirement. So here I just want to indicate certain numbers that came from 91. And 91, they call it a 5 and 20 strategy. And what the 5% says is that for you to start drawing an income level of 5% when you retire, you need to have at least funds equivalent to 20 times of your final salary as your pension. Meaning that on retirement, you take your annual salary on up. When you retire, multiply it by 20, and that amount should be able to allow you to draw at least 5% on it on a annual basis for you to be able to meet your expenses. So, and they further indicate that it will take that money can last you as much as 30 years. We know of people that went on retirement when they are at 65, and some of them are still alive at 90 years. So they've got 25 years that they had to fund for their retirement. So this also indicates that for you to get to an acceptable number at the retirement, you need to have started earlier to be able to accumulate those funds. So this is just another indication that came from 91, whereby if you start saving early, meaning you start saving at 20 years old and you save 15% of your income, you will be able to have sufficient funds to retire. So let's look at the green line. The green bar says the percentage of pre-tax income to save each year to reach your goal. So meaning that you need to you need to save at least 15% of your annual salary. And I think those that are in a pension fund are already achieving that in some way. So you need to have that amount saved on a yearly basis. Then when you look at the light green bar, it says the period to reach that 20 times your final salary. So it means for you to reach that 20 times salary, you need to have invested 40 years. If you were saving 30% of your income, it means you are going to only invest 30 years for you to reach that 20 times salary. However, let's say you start investing late, you start saving or you start contributing to your pension fund when you are 40 years old, you are already late, then it means that you need to save at least 60% of your salary to be able to retire comfortably. So, and we will see also later on in terms of how the numbers stack up as you do some of these things much earlier. Let's look at the first one where you start saving or contributing to your pension funds at 20 years. You will notice that the black bar starts accelerating when it gets to the end. And that is the impact of your time value of money. So let's say you start work at 25 and at 40, you stop working, but you still keep your funds in a preservation fund. Those funds are still going to continue to grow until you get at retirement age. So let's start with the first block. So by the age of 25, you should have saved at least 1 times of your annual salary for you to be able to achieve that replacement ratio. Sorry, 1 times of your salary, your monthly salary, by the age your annual salary by age of 25. So it takes you 5 years to save for 1 year of your salary. Then by the age of 40, you should have at least saved 5 times of that replacement salary. You should have five times at least. Then it starts accelerating. By the time you reach 50, you should have at least 10 times of your replacement income. So that by the time you reach the end of the age of retirement, you have got 20 times of the replacement income. So you can actually see that the different periods between year 1 and year 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 20, it starts accelerating because that's where the time value of money comes in. And that's when you start preparing really for retirement. So the sooner you start planning for retirement, the better. So that I know if you are already employed and you are contributing to that, good for you. If you are someone who's already utilizing some of the different we call them assets or products to plan for retirement, like the tax-free savings account. Good for you, because the sooner you actually start doing that, the better. And what that also does is, let's say you at 55, you decide to leave your work because it's very stressful, and you put all of your funds in preservation. You go for an easy job, you semi-retire. Then you are in a position to start focusing on specific things, like getting rid of your debt. If you want to change your house, you do them before you actually go on retirement. You don't spend your retirement money on assets that are not producing any income. So I'm going to talk briefly about financial management and retirement. So what happens when you retire is that you've got limited streams of income. The first one is pensions. Those that have gone on pension already, they know that when you go on pension, you don't receive 100% of your income. Sometimes it gets, you get 5% that I spoke to, 5% of what you have invested. Because in terms of the regulations in South Africa, you can only withdraw between 4.7 and 20 and 17%. So that, meaning that your income stream is going to be very limited. If you are lucky and you have got retirement annuities, you will also get retirement annuities, and we utilize the same formula of about 4.7% until about 17% for you to be able to prolong the amount of money that you have invested. If you were a person who was investing, that's when you are probably going to get dividends, and some are actually getting government grants. So those are some of the income streams that you will have on retirement. Some will have one, some will have two, some will have all four. But what gets very important, or one of the things that happened last year, is it last year, the two-pot system, is where we saw a lot of people going for the two-pot system to make withdrawals to pay debt. And Sanlam says close to 44% of the withdrawals that were made had a big impact on the taxable income of people when they go on retirement. Remember, those funds were taxed those funds were taxed at your progressive tax rate. But again, what it does, it reduced your ability to accumulate that 20 times income that you need at retirement. It might have been a good thing that you got some money, but in the long run, and it might not be good. The other thing is you have lost time in the market where your funds would have grown. One of the disadvantages with some of the types of debt is that after paying it, you just pick up your a card on Monopoly. They call it go back to jail for free, and that's what happens when you utilize your investment income to actually to settle debt. It might not be a good thing to actually do. I see Brian is online. I'm going to ask him to join in and introduce himself, as well as talk about the next item on budgeting. Are you there, Brian? Okay. Brian is still struggling. So let me continue. So what you need to do then is that you need to align yourself or align your lifestyle when you go on retirement. That is quite important. So some of the things that we usually see when we do financial advice is that people will start taking on a lot of debt for their business, for their life, and they're doing this right at retirement age. What's happening now? Right at their retirement age. And that is just so unfortunate that you utilize your, oh my goodness, my apologies for that. Um I've got issues with my slide share. I need to stop presenting and start again. My apologies for that. So Brian, do you want to pick up on budgeting?
I was saying, okay, yeah, I can talk about that. Yes. I don't know where you were, and apologies for coming in a bit late.
Okay. On budgeting?
Okay.
Are you there, Brian?
Okay, yes, I'm here. So, when it comes to retirement planning, uh, especially post-retirement, it's very important that before when one is in their final retirement years, they always draw up what their budgets will be like. So in the olden days, um, most people would actually not budget because they would think that they would rely with their children's incomes, for example, to sustain their lifestyles in retirement. But the current trends have uh, now shown that uh, most people actually have to carry themselves or even carry their children uh, into retirement. So
Mm.
it's very important that one draws up a budget, one before retirement and also one after retirement. It's very important that you understand the kind of expenses that you cannot run away from, whether before or after retirement. And it's also very important that one realigns their lifestyle rather from from before retirement and after retirement. And you need to factor in tax obligations in retirement as well, because the income that you earn even in retirement will still be taxed, be it income from an annuity, or if you had built up a property portfolio, for example, the rental income and all, it will still be taxed. And then it's important that you know what are your needs and what are your wants when you draw up a budget. So, from a financial planning perspective, it's always important that one actually determines before retirement uh, how they want to do things like traveling, what will be their hobbies in retirement, because it's also very important from a mental wellness point of view, because in most instances that still translates to your health as well. When you do things that you want to do in retirement, it has a positive uh, reflection even on your health. So it's important that when one uh, is planning a budget in retirement, they also look at things like traveling. You can travel once a year to a place where you have always wanted to go. And you also need to invest in your hobbies. A lot of people try sports like mostly injury-free hobbies, like say golf, bowling, and stuff. So there are always things like those subscriptions, and it also helps you in terms of sense of belonging in retirement, knowing that you are a member of such a club, we do such hobbies in this club. It helps your mental your mental wellness in retirement. So always include such costs in your budgets. Healthcare, you definitely would need some form of medical aid or health insurance in retirement. Um, if you look through all the years of your life in retirement, that's most likely when you need healthcare the most. So it's important that you need to have that in your budgets. Then also always budget for things like tax payments. Sometimes, especially where rental income is concerned, you always earn rent before tax deductions. So you need to budget for such tax payments as far as things like rental income is concerned. Also, budget for emergencies. Emergencies do not choose age. So even in retirement, you always have emergencies. Then some bit of insight there. Only 43% expect to maintain their lifestyle, and mostly women are more vulnerable at 38%. So, in terms of maintaining lifestyle, especially for women, it's very important that they take into account of such budgeting process. And if one cannot do it alone, there are always professionals uh, that can uh, that can assist.
Mm.
Yes. I think the next point is estate planning. Do you want to take it over?
Yeah. So in terms of estate planning, one of the things that I think we tend to forget to do is our estate plans. So later on in the presentation, we're going to look at the different years when you can start doing certain things. Is when you are younger, when you start investing at 20 years, and that you usually go for aggressive investment strategies because you're still younger. The market can actually go up and down, and you'll still recover. Then when you are in your middle, around 40 to 50 or less, then you start looking at a moderate portfolio where you start reducing the equities and you start putting in the bonds and some other assets that we consider moderate moderate assets, portfolio assets. And then when you are about to retire, you need to look at de-risking your portfolio. This is very important for those that have got financial advisors. You need to de-risk your portfolio from age 55 so that by the time you go on retirement, you have not gone through a cycle where your portfolio has reduced. What do I mean when I say de-risk your portfolio? Let's say your portfolio has got 70% equities and has got 30% bonds, or has got offshore, a bit of offshore based on Regulation 28. So, but what happens is we get a situation of COVID or the Ukraine war where the markets go down. And at that time, that's the time when you have to do your withdrawal. And let's say you had 10 million, and by the time you want to withdraw because you're going on retirement, your funds is not 10 million anymore, it's about 9 million. It will go to that amount if you are overweight with risky assets. But let's say when you are at 55, you start moving your portfolio, de-risking your portfolio to an extent that you have got a low risk portfolio. On the day that you leave your employer, you have got a low risk portfolio. So it means that instead maybe of the market implications being a big 10% on your 10 million, it would probably be far less than that, meaning your 10 million will not be reduced to 9 million. It's going to reduce probably to about 9.5 or 9.7. So that is what we call de-risking your portfolio. Then the next thing that you need to do, if you have got wills, make sure that you update your will. A lot of pension rules require that you include beneficiaries as in your nomination form. Make sure that all of those are being updated. The pension fund, the government pension fund, as well as the FSCA, usually communicates that there's a lot of unclaimed benefits from pension houses. Imagine your father, who was working at Premier Mine for almost 30 years, he didn't know that he has to update his beneficiaries, and he passes on, he goes back, he gets buried at home, and the children don't know that Papa had a pension fund, and those are still sitting there at Anglo American, at Alexander Forbes, at different asset managers' houses, whereby they cannot trace the beneficiaries. So on a regular basis, you need to make sure that you update your beneficiaries. When your child is born, update your beneficiaries as well. And where possible, if you see that you will not be able to handle certain activities because you don't have the financial understanding, appoint someone and give them a power of attorney to do certain transactions on your behalf. Not like you giving them all your life, but giving them a power of attorney. One example, you are sick, you are in hospital to an extent that after a while there is a possibility that you will be medically boarded. That means that you need to have someone that you will give a power of attorney to go and transact on your behalf for certain activities. If you say, I want you to go and handle my financial planning activities, that person will go and do that. The other one is the utilization of transferring your assets into a trust in order to reduce your tax liabilities should anything happen to you, whether you die or anything. So one example, you have got a property or more than one property, as Brian has said, where you are getting rental income, and boom, you pass away, and that asset has to be transferred to your beneficiaries, and you died without a will. It's just a mess. So first of all, your beneficiaries must go and start scrambling to pay for tax on the transfer of the assets. So if you've got more than one asset and you are generating revenue from them, or you're getting income from them, and at some point you want to distribute them to your heirs, make sure that you put them in assets, because in a trust, because that will also assist you in terms of estate duties, because the asset will just pass on because it's already included. It's in a certain instrument. Lastly, make sure that you review your plans with a professional. Um, and I think there is a myth out there that financial advisors are expensive, but there is financial advice that is quite valuable. So I'm going to talk briefly about some of the tax implications, and Brian has touched on them earlier on a bit. So in terms of the tax implications, when you go on retirement, um, there's going to be some taxes that you pay. The first 500, assuming that you have not made any withdrawals when you were changing jobs and taking your pension, assuming that you have not utilized the lifetime limit, the first 500,000 will be tax-free, and then the additional withdrawals will be at a progressive scale. So you need to be aware of that. There's people who will come and say, no, I want to take my pension. When you show them the tax bill, they start saying, oh, but I never took money. I just resigned, and the money was small and I took it 20 years ago. Handy, is SAR still looking at 20 years ago? Yes, they look at it because they say it's a lifetime limit. Secondly, the two-pot system, that the withdrawals that happened from the two-pot system were taxed as income. If you had used that to pay your debt, you must know that it's going to increase your taxable income. Meaning that, let's say you want to take from your two-pot this year, and you are at the highest progressive scale of about 55% or 52%, and you do that withdrawal, you are going to be taxed at that rate, at 55% or 52%. Unlike if you were to leave those funds and they grow at a rate of about 10% in terms of returns on an annual basis, or so by the time you withdraw that money later on, it would have grown significantly. So some of these things just require discipline. The next one is on investment income. You need to also know that if you had bought shares, I'm not going to talk about the MTN, whatever Nati or Putuma Nati, those that did not generate good returns. But if you are getting dividends from Boputuma Nati or Sasol Inzalo, there is a dividend that goes in there. If you are invested and you are getting interest, some of the interest get taxed. Anything beyond 23,000 gets taxed. Or if you are less than 60 years old, 65 years old, but if you are over 65, the amount is much more. So you need to be aware of these small amounts that will be coming through as tax charges. Last one is on capital gains tax. You need to be aware that capital gains tax doesn't only happen on the sale of assets. It also happens on a transfer of an asset. You have got a house, you transfer that house to your child, and there is capital gains tax on it. Unfortunately, some people are not aware of it, and by the time they do their tax return and say, no, I've transferred the house to my son, and now they have to pay capital gains tax, and they are not aware of some of these things. There is a proviso as well, that if it is a place of your primary place of abode, there is a reprieve that you can actually get from SARS, whereby the first 2 million if the property is more than 2 million, the first 2 million, there's no capital gains tax applied, and there's more annual exclusions that you can also take off as well. And also 40% of the capital gains tax will also be taxed. But here I would like to urge everyone to consult with your tax practitioner or financial advisor, so before you do the transfer of the house, so that they can assist you with actually the correct calculations. What was interesting that came out of the Sanlam report, was that they say nearly 50% of their members say that they rely on Google for financial advice. And now that we have got the chat GPTs, the AIs, people type and then they get information on AI and generated via AI. And sometimes that might be a big mistake, to an extent that you risk missteps in your tax journey. So Brian, can you just talk about some of the strategies that are out there that one can look at once you prepare for retirement, to actually start implementing? And it's never too late to actually start doing these things. Brian, over to you.
Thanks, Tabiseng. Yeah, so the Google issue that you indicated, yeah, it's actually something very serious, and I think as financial advisors, it has actually become a challenge when you then try to help clients who would have actually fallen into the trap of taking those missteps as far as tax issues are concerned, um, when they go into retirement. So I'm going to look at the strategies that clients can take in as far as mitigating tax is concerned. So there are products that are available in the market that would always help as far as tax is concerned. One of the products that is there is tax-free investments. Tax-free investments, they have a lifetime limit of 500,000. So it's an investment that that a person can actually take up and contribute a maximum of 500,000 to it. The major challenge, as far as what Ntavise discussed in the previous slide, is people looking for advice on Google. The investment itself is more often than not wrongly utilized, especially when a person has invested into it and they actually do withdrawals from it on a regular basis. Like, it becomes an investment that they want to go to make withdrawals in case of emergency. But the tax-free investment is better used as tax strategy for the long term. And when you think long term, you can easily then think retirement. So per annum, you can contribute 36,000 to it. You don't get any tax on the growth of the there's no tax on it. It's actually a better product compared to say the retirement annuity. But the only challenge is that it has a limit of 36,000 per annum, whereas other retirement products do not have a limit per se. So a tax-free investment is a very good investment strategy. You put 3,000 per month, or you can put in 36,000 once off annum. Then you also look at there are ways that you can structure your annuities. The best option here is to actually opt for living annuities, where you can spread your taxable income over time. So here, that's where mostly you would need the expertise of a financial planner to assist you when you go on retirement. Look at the living annuities available. Look at the drawdown, best drawdown that you can take. I think it's from 2.5% to 17.5% per annum that you can take as income from a living annuity. And I'm saying you can correct me on the percentages if I'm wrong, but I feel I think it's 2.5 to
4.7.
4.7.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. But here, that's where it's important to also work with your financial planner as far as how you would structure this. Um, the other strategy is on your retirement fund contributions. And again, uh, it's important to engage a financial planner as well as far as maxing your contributions is concerned. Uh, Retirement fund contributions, they can always be utilized to reduce your tax burden, your taxable income. Depending on how much you earn, you can actually contribute up to 350,000. It's kept at 350,000, and that can be deductible on your taxable income. Or 25, it's the higher of 27.5% of your taxable income, or 350,000, can actually be used to reduce your tax burden. It's always important to then engage a tax practitioner or a financial planner to determine your taxable income and how the 27.5% or the cap can be utilized. Then you also looked at estate duty planning, again, something also highly specialized, where you actually also need the expertise of a professional, depending on how you are married, or if you can actually utilize trusts, you can save a lot as far as estate duty is concerned. Estate duty is taxed at 20% on estates and states above 3.5 million. It's 20%, right?
Yes, on anything above 3.5.
Above 3.5 million. But with the use with utilization of vehicles like trusts, you can actually save a lot as far as estate duty is concerned. Again, it's recommended to see a financial planner. Go through your financials, your assets and liabilities, your goals, your objectives, and determine which strategy would suit best your portfolio. You can take over the next slide.
Okay. Thanks, Brian. I just did quick calculations for those that are not sure about the tax-free account. Let's say you start working, like this year you are 22 or you are 20, and you start doing the 36,000 per annum. For you to reach that 500,000, it's going to take you 13 years. So you start when you are 20. By the time you are 33, assuming the market grows at 12%, that 500,000, by the time you get to 13 years and finishing to pay in 13 years, it will be 1.1 million, 1.147 million. Then if you decide to keep that money into that account and don't withdraw it, nothing, allow it to grow for a further 30 years. When you take it out at 63 years, the funds will be about 34 million. And it's because of the compounding effect. And all of this is tax free. Not even a zero will be taxed for on the tax free account. So it's quite important that you look at this thing strategically for you to be able to take advantage of the tax consequences. I'm looking at the time, so I'm going to try to finish very quickly. Some of the things that Brian has spoken about, he spoke a lot about healthcare, that healthcare is important when you are in retirement. Insurance is important when you are in retirement. I'll talk briefly about healthcare. You definitely need a medical aid when you are on retirement because, ask me, the ailments when you start reaching 50, they just accelerate. So you see a doctor like almost every month because you have got this and this happening in your life. The next one is that there are tax benefits even when you are in retirement in terms of the medical expense tax credits. You only get the medical tax credits only when you have got a medical aid. You can't get those when you don't have medical aid. And all of this I'm talking about is barring the fact that they are talking about NHI. For as long as NHI is not there, this will be the status quo. So there are advantages of actually taking medical aid even when you are in retirement because you have got medical tax credits. But there's good news for again coming through. So if you are a person that gets sickly quite often and your doctor says no, go and stay at a step down facility or a retirement home, and it's your doctor that recommends that, I've got good news. Or if it's your mother or your relative, I've got good news that is coming on the next slide. So lastly, if your medical expenses on an annual basis are more than 7.5% of your taxable income, you can get those as a refund from COSARS. Those that have got medical aids or medical savings plan that gets exhausted in March, you can pay your expenses, all of your expenses, as long as you keep records and it's for you and your dependents. You can keep all of those expenses. When you do your tax return, you include them as a tax deduction, and SARS is going to give you an additional tax credit on that. Let's talk about the other qualifying medical expenses. I'm not sure as to how many of us are aware that even when you are in retirement, where you have got any of the expenses listed here, from, let's say you see a medical practitioner, a dentist, optometrist, homeopath, neuropath, osteopath, herbalist, physiotherapist, chiropractor, orthodontist, you can get those costs as a deduction for tax purposes. The big one is a nursing home where it is prescribed that a person must have certain types of attention and they need to move into a medical home. I think this is quite good because I don't think a lot of us know it, that those expenses are tax deductible. Say you are taking care of your mom and dad, or your mom, or somebody in your family, and they are sickly. You put them in a nursing home, and you are paying for those expenses. Those can be deductible for tax purposes, or even for themselves, it can be deductible. So this is one thing that you need to go and talk to your financial advisor about, or a tax practitioner about, where they can actually help you to minimize your tax expenses. The other one that I want to talk about is disability expenses, where you are actually assisting a dependent. Somebody, SARS says, it must be a dependent, somebody who depends on you, whether you are that person, their expenses, your disability expenses can actually be deductible. Um, the next one, I'm just going to go very quickly. Brian has already spoken about them, where you need to, when you go on retirement, you need to look at your lifestyle and your mental health and all of that. But this is one thing that you can take home with today, whether it's for you or your family members, as to some people start planning for retirement 6 months before, when their employer says, come and take your forms to go on retirement. So what we have here is, you can share this with anyone, where we're proposing a roadmap towards retirement. First, when you are at 55, you need to have goals. What do you want to do when you retire? Do you want to travel, or do you want to go back and work, or do some easy work? Assess the shortfall that you will have. Remember, when I started, I spoke about the 20 times annual salary. So if there is a shortfall, then it will tell you whether you need to make certain decisions. When you are at 55, remember earlier we spoke about most employers do 15%. Then tax man says, I can allow you as much as 27%. So why don't you utilize the difference between 15% and 27 and accelerate or max your contributions, meaning that you will have more disposable income, and you can use it to start renovating your house and clearing your debt. Lastly, you need to de-risk the portfolio. I spoke about it earlier. You de-risk your portfolio at 55. You don't wait until you are 60 when you go on retirement. The next thing is that between 57 and 58, look at which one is going to be a better option for you. Are you going to go for a living annuity, or are you going to have a life annuity? And your advisor is going to be very important here. And they must give you calculations. Don't just accept any form that comes and say, yeah, take the Sanlam life annuity. It's got cost implications. So you need to understand those costs as well. The other one is, there is nothing wrong in downsizing or reshuffling your assets. If you are driving a Porsche and you're going on retirement and you think you're not going to be able to maintain it, there's nothing wrong in going for a much smaller car. If you are staying in a much big house, where maintenance is about 10% of your income. Now, remember, maintenance costs will always stay the same, or they will go up with inflation, but your income will be going down, meaning that you need to be able to keep your expenses in line with the income that you are getting. Hence, we'll say, start looking at downsizing. When you're about 59, 60, look at tax efficient lump sum simulations. This is where you want to take some funds out. Let your financial advisor sit and do simulations for you. If you're taking 600,000, what is the impact? 1 million, what is the impact? So just work on those numbers. The other one that I spoke about is update your estate plan. And lastly, if you have got a trust and the trust was structured in a certain way where you are just a trustee and not a beneficiary, maybe this is the time for you to put yourself as well as a beneficiary in the trust, so that you can be able to get income through that trust. Lastly, we're looking at about 60, 65, and you still have the energy to work. You can consider to take another job, but where you are semi-retired, instead of working full 8 hours, you can work 5 hours on something like that. And at that time, you also need to understand, what is your drawdown strategy. One thing you must also remember is that if you go and you start withdrawing 20% of your retirement funds, they will be available for only 5 years. Because there are those that will say, no, it's my money, my children will get their own money. But what if you live until you are 90? That's when we start seeing unpleasant things where people cannot fund their own retirement. I've also indicated earlier you're reducing your portfolio risk. At this point, your portfolio must have a lot of bonds, a lot of cash assets, and a little bit of the property assets, and as well as a little bit of your equity assets. Your financial advisor should be able to help you with that. So in terms of the next steps, if you have got any other issues that would like to us to talk about, you can email Joy. I think I saw quite a few comments, but I can't see them now in the chat. Yeah, there is quite a lot. So that it's a So if you start working, somebody says, unfortunately, not everyone starts working at the age of 25. Some start at after 30. How do you then ensure that you achieve that 100% repayment ratio? This is where you say, if let's say your employer gives you a pension of 15%, you go and get yourself a retirement annuity of another 12%. Then you maximize your contribution to 27%, and you get the reduced tax liability, and you are in a position to accelerate that. I would recommend that if you started late, started working late, you might want to talk to a financial advisor that can actually help you to actually do the calculations and the scenarios in terms of where you can make improvements. So the next steps is, if you are interested in knowing more, this presentation is going to be on our YouTube page. Our YouTube page is MMCP Advisors. I just go on our YouTube page. You'll also learn from some of the other webinars that we did, and you can also subscribe so that whenever we've got new webinars, you can actually get the information. So the information will be available. Thank you very much for joining us. And if you found this very valuable, we are going to have another session this evening at 6 p.m. So the link is going to be a bit different. But if you feel you want to invite some of your relatives or your friends and you found this very valuable, the session is going to continue up again this afternoon. And thank you very much for joining us, and have a good retirement planning live. Cheers, bye.
Thank you, Tansing.
Thanks,
Cheers,
Brian.
everyone. See